we're going to take some time in a moment or two to look at both psukim and mishnayot, dealing with lost objects and returning lost objects to their owners. And to do that, we're going to actually look at a handful of sources. Actually, the psukim and the mishnayot, what a novel thought. And then I want to say a few things about this notion of when my soul was in the lost and found. When my soul was in the lost and found. You got it. So that's why the words are there on your source sheets. The words are there. And I want to say a few things about the words, and I want to say a few things about how this sugya and these issues are dear to my life. And yes, doctorate in my hands, and I am going to read a couple of paragraphs from the afterword of it. And you've read the description in terms of my questions. Is a lost and found a place, a person, a state of consciousness, a time of the year? Is it a rabbi, a friend, a relative? Is it perhaps the month of Elul? Is it Rosh Hashanah? Is it Yom Kippur? Is it Sukkot? Where is our lost and found? And what is it that we seek to find in our lost and found? There are two ways that I think about this notion of our soul lost and found. And really, I do confess that before the Morinai, the Chernobyl Rebbe, before Rabbi Nachman and his words came to my life and to my reality, I was born in the States. My parents decided to make Aliyah when I was 2. We moved to Israel when I was 8. My sibling was 5 years older than me, which means he is primarily responsible for American music. Because when living in the Ma'on Olim in one room was the only time in our lives for a year and a half we shared a room, what he wanted to listen to was what I loved. Which means basically there are pockets, and I can explain why Carole King, not Joni Mitchell, why the Osmonds and not the Grateful Dead. So there are like these pockets of what I do know and what I don't know. So Carole King, God bless her, and Aretha Franklin should forgive me, but that is who I attribute the song to and the voice that I hear inside, although with the Kennedy Awards this past year, she's been redeemed and reclaimed, her voice in the song. And I want us to look at these words for a moment and to think about them as actually speaking to God. Also to another person, but also to God. When my soul was in the lost and found, and this was at the age of 8, 9, and 10, when I didn't have yet the language of Rabbi Nachman and the Ma'oinayim to talk about my soul being lost and found, I had the experience of it. But this is where I learned that term and could coin it and could express it. When my soul was in the lost and found, you, capital Y, one and only, you came along to claim it. I didn't know just what was wrong with me till your kiss helped me name it. Now imagine the next time you kiss your siddur when you close it. Imagine the next time you kiss the tzitzit before you put it on to wrap yourself in. Imagine the next time the Sefer Torah is walking by you and you lean over with your own lips to kiss it. Imagine that moment as a moment of both claiming God and being claimed by God. When my soul was in the lost and found, you came along to claim it. I didn't know just what was wrong with me till your kiss helped me name it. Now I'm no longer doubtful of what I'm living for. And if making you happy, and if I make you happy, I don't need to do more. For me, this is the kavanah of entering into the month of Elul and walking towards Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Shmini Atzeret, the inner chambers of the king, of the queen, of the one, of being home, of roaming around, And we talk about Elul as being the month where the king is in the field. And what an amazing image to think of being sought out and looked for, even if I can't make the way home yet. And even I don't have the courage to knock on the door, the image of the divine coming to seek me. I want to hold on to this image when we look in a moment at the Psukim and the Mishnah. I do want to share with you a few paragraphs from the afterword of my dissertation. It's interesting and it's beautiful and it's a gift that I found out actually towards the end of the writing, that the sugya in the Gemara that deals with returning unidentifiable lost objects to their owner, hashavate v'yeush shalomidat, and the question of conscious or unconscious relinquishment of ownership, is actually a sugya that my mother and my grandfather learned together. And I didn't know that the whole time working on the doctorate until I was talking to her chavruta, my godmother, Denise, and I told her about the doctorate, and then she said, I said it's the second chapter of Baba Metzia, and she goes, I go, excuse me? She said, yeah, Kam Barabamo. I go, what? She goes, yeah, I said, excuse me? And she said, I don't know where those words came from. I haven't said them in 65 years. But your mother and I, we learned them together with your grandfather. I go, what? So this sugya has been now 3 generations in my family and coined so much of who we are, of who I am and how I walk in the world. And I want to start with actually sharing, as I said, a couple of pages, short pages, to describe how I walk in the world and how this notion of lost objects and my soul as a lost object, how it functions in my life, so that you'll have a sense of, when I use the phrase, where am I coming from, what does it mean to me, what are all the layers, or at least some of the layers, that every time I use the word, they are pregnant with. With you is the fountain of life, in your light we seek light. That's Psalms 36, Tilim Lamed Vav. On the cusp of life. I want to say something about the word loss and how it is so often used in regard to death, and how I personally identify it in regard to death and about how it functions in this dissertation. Without employing the statisticians in our midst, I feel it's safe to say that the word loss is an overused and underpaid euphemism for death. When mourners are addressed, the seemingly appropriate etiquette is to say, I'm sorry for your loss. This loss must be so hard for you. Our dead, that a moment ago were lying before us, our dead that are lying in front of us, our dead that a minute ago were lying before us, have been granted by others the status of a lost object, that they seem to feel bad about us losing. The irony of this phrase is not lost on me. As I feel that my own dead are never lost, nor my relationship to and with them. They are always present with me, and with me. They continue to maintain their place and role in my life. Indeed, I personally find myself living on a continuum of life and death, certainly never with a sense of a split between the 2 realms of existence. A continuum where there are no gaps, and therefore there is no place or room for loss. Perhaps this is because of mystical inclinations, or perhaps this condition arises from the way I live so continuously with the sages of the Talmud, alongside my fellow scholars of Talmud, Jewish thought, and history. In any case, I live daily with a sense of a very thin veil separating the 2 worlds. Some days the veil is just more opaque or transparent than others. When I invited years ago to teach a class for Rachel Adler's rabbinical students at HUC in Los Angeles to speak about my understanding of the afterlife, I opened with 2 alternative narratives as to how I was born. How I entered the world was to be my backdrop to explain my understanding as to where we go, what happens when we die, cross over. The first narrative that the students are comfortable with. I share my parents' love for each other during the period I was conceived, that I was a desired pregnancy and a wanted child. I even humor students with the details of being born in the back seat of the car, as my father was driving past Yankee Stadium, a blessed memory, on the major Hagen Expressway, and that if my maternal grandmother would have still been alive, I would have not been named after her, Miriam Sarah, but rather Ruth, as a tribute to the Yankee slugger. Which honestly would have been fine, because Ruth is a beautiful name. The second narrative, and here we come to this morning. The second narrative is more challenging. I tell the students Rabbi Nachman of Breslov's first story, which he told 2 years before he crossed over. It is known as the story of the lost princess. And he speaks of a princess whose father, the king, loses his temper one day and blurts out, "May the no good take you, shehaloto v'yikach otach." Subsequently, the princess disappears from the palace, and her father, the king, riddled with sorrow, sends his viceroy to find her. It takes the viceroy a lifetime to do so, a lifetime that she lives as a lost princess, a lost object, that its owner, the king, yearns to retrieve. The story concludes with her being found, though how exactly she is reclaimed and restored to her father, Rabbi Nachman never revealed. An interpretation of this parable, with which I have a deep affinity, likens the soul, the neshama, to God's lost princess. Life is a journey of a lost object with identifiable elements that enable its owner never to despair of it being retrieved and returned to the palace. In this rendition, we can speak of death in the context of the loss of lost objects, but not as a human loss. For Rabbi Nachman and for myself, as I walk in his footsteps, death is perceived as a homecoming, and in such a way holds elements of joy and celebration. It is a promise of belonging, of never truly being lost, at worst, misplaced. I want to enter into the Psukim and the Mishnah to think about this notion of our soul being lost, relationships, passion, prayer life. What else? What else? What are you going to be reclaiming for yourselves this year? What are we going to be reclaiming for ourselves this year?
Hope.
Hope. Hope.
Security.
Security. Tenderness.
Vitality.
Vitality.
Courage.
Courage.
Clarity.
Clarity.
Embracing change.
Embracing change. Faith.
Wholeness.
Wholeness. Let's take a look at the Psukim and see how they feed how it is we're going to go about claiming, reclaiming those parts in ourselves. I'm in Dvarim. I can say this, Deuteronomy. My achievement in life in America is being able to say Deuteronomy and spell it without the spell check. Statisticians, I'm still learning. Okay, so I want to read the Psukim for us, and I want, as we're reading the Psukim, to think about, yes, the Torah is talking about animals, cloaks, garments, objects, but we now know that we're not reading it, forgive me, on a pshat level. I'm pshatly challenged. I don't know what pshat means. I never did. It's the white spaces that I understand, the black letters, there's always a miscommunication going on there. So therefore, but I'm going to try here because you guys are going to help us here. Okay, so if someone would read Hebrew, English, whatever you're comfortable with, the 4 Psukim in Devarim, and we can think about all the different opportunities that these Psukim are offering us when thinking about reclaiming a lost object. And if you could say your name, because I have the blessing of seeing you and knowing you, we can share.
I'm Shana.
And when you called up to the Torah, you called up as?
יפה בת זלמן ודבורה.
Amen. Okay, please.
לא תראה את שור אחיך או את שאו, נידחים והתעלמת מהם. השב תשיבם לאחיך.
Okay, let's start for this pasuk. What is going on here? What are responsibilities? What are obligations? What are commitments? What is the Torah telling us here? Please.
Raphael, Daniel, and Abraham Moshe. Which you do.
Amen.
That we're responsible for each other, that we have a responsibility to each other.
We have a responsibility to each other. Right? When we see a lost object. So, first of all, the Torah really isn't talking about our own lost objects that we find for ourselves. I want to put that out there. Right? The Gemara in Brachot, when talking about Rabbi Yochanan, will say, "En chavush matir atzmo bet hasurim." The one who is incarcerated cannot redeem themselves from imprisonment. Why can he help others heal and not heal himself? So number one is to say that we have, on the one hand, we have a responsibility to help each other find the lost parts of ourselves. And there's also an acknowledgement that we can't necessarily do that for ourselves. Because if we could, then possibly it actually wouldn't be called lost. Right? Maybe misplaced. Or I want to say another paradigm that I use, by the way, is when I sell my chametz for Pesach. So I never sell chametz gamur, but there are certain things that are ta'arov with chametz, right? Mitzvahs of chametz, and I can do that. I have to confess, the one thing I could do at home, and I haven't found the person to do that here in the United States with, is, I admit that, is I'd also sell relationships for the week. Meaning to say, there's sometimes a relationship, I can't do the work. It's not chametz gamur. It's not that this person and I can't be together ever again, or can't be in a relationship ever again. But the kind of work that has to happen between us, that's chametz stick. So I want to put that aside for a week. And I want to say, like, for this week, not dealing with this relationship, not dealing with this person, not negotiating it. So, but you have to be the kind of blog that is willing to actually buy someone else's relationships, right, for the week. So that's another place where at times I'll put this image into motion as well. Pesach, sell relationships. It may be with myself. It may be a challenge within myself as well. I'm saying, okay, I'm not negotiating this week, this part of me, not negotiating. And that's okay. 51 weeks a year, I'm going to negotiate it 1 week, give myself a vacation, a break. Liberation from that piece inside of me. So we have responsibility. כי תראה, לא תראה את שור אחיך ואת שאו נידחים, והתעלמת.
That's the most important word here. Indifference is one of the problems, or the what creates problems, that we are indifferent.
Indifference.
לא תראה והתעלמת, that's the whole thing.
Right? לא תראה והתעלמת. Whoa. Indifference. And I also want to take a step back for a moment and also be compassionate to those of us sitting in this room right now, right? Because if we have this kind of obligation, who of us is going to walk the streets? Who of us is going to walk into their shul? Because every person we're going to walk by has the potential for this situation. I also want to acknowledge that as well. Right, that the magnitude of this work is tremendous. Although I also want to say, it's told about the Tzanzer Rebbe and the Kumana Rebbe. It's told about the Tzanzer Rebbe, if you came to him and you weren't his Talmid, that means you weren't connected on a soul level, he'd tell you, you can hear my words, but you're not my Talmid. It's told about the Kumana Rebbe that if you came to him and he wasn't your Talmid, he wasn't his Talmid, the Kumana Rebbe would say, I'm sorry, you can hear my words, but I'm not your Rebbe, you're not my Talmid, but let me tell you who your Rebbe is. Let me tell you who you are connected to on a soul level. So therefore, I also want to say, is there something unique about our vision? That each one of us walks in the world and there are certain things that we see and certain things that we don't see. Now it also could be that at times people will be upset with us because they think we see things that we don't see. they think that we are walking by and being indifferent, when actually we truly and honestly didn't see it because our eyes see differently. We hear differently. We walk differently. And that's also similar to chametz. How can we clean and have everything rid of chametz in our hearts for sure? That's why there's also a bitul chametz. We know we have the work to do, but it's going to be partially a question of asking ourselves, did I not see? Did I see? Am I indifferent? Those are two different questions. What do we do for ourselves? What do we do for the other? What's our responsibility? And this one word at the end of the pasuk, achicha, achotcha. In other words, what again is the nature of the relationship? Who do we walk in the world as ach and achot? Right, if it was bialek, achnisini tachat knafech v'hili em v'achot. Right, bialek asked the Shekhinah, achnisini tachat knafech. Bring me under your wings. V'hili em v'achot. And be my mother and my sister. Right? What does it mean to enter into this time of year? Not only with Avinu Malkeinu, Imenu Malkatenu, but also with Ach Achot. With mutual healing. Right? Dare we ask these questions that we're asking of ourselves? Do we ask them about God? Does God get lost? Are there parts of God's vision that have been lost that we can claim and bring back home? What would that be? What would that look like? Who is our Ach? Okay, that's number one. Pasuk Aleph. Pasuk Bet. Please.
And I think that actively Hashem Tashiva is also important. That we have to respond, we have to return.
We have to respond, we have to turn, and that's why you're going to read the next pasuk, because the next pasuk is going to pick up on Hashem Tashiva, exactly there.
ואם לא קרוב אחיך אליך, ולא ידעתו ואספתו אל תוך ביתך, והיה עמך עד ראש אחיך אותו, והשבות לו.
Wow.
והשבותו לו.
I want you to know pasuk Aleph is the easy part of the paradigm. Pasuk Bet is where the work happens. Okay, pasuk Bet. So what's going on here? ואם לא קרוב אחיך אליך ולא ידעתו ואספתו. Okay. And if your brother is not
Your body.
With you.
ואם לא קרוב אחיך אליך, right? Now again, I'm pushing it, but how responsible am I towards this person? Like, we're a family, but really? Right? Like, I can't talk to them about this. It's not my place to talk to them about this challenge that I see that they're negotiating. Right? Or, lo yadato. What does that mean? What do you understand from these two words? V'lo yadato.
You don't really know him.
You don't really know, right? And that's another piece. I remember when I first came to Ziegler, it happens much less now, I confess. But when I first came, I would go down to Rabbi Arson's office once, twice a day, definitely once a day. I wanted to do it more, but I was embarrassed. I'd walk into his office and I'd say to him, okay, this is what I saw. Now tell me, because I grew up in Israel, despite this accent, right? Tell me, what I just saw, was that American Jewry? Is that conservative American Jewry? Is that West Coast conservative American Jewry? Is that Southern California conservative Jewry? Because once you tell me what I saw, I'll tell you what I think about it. And I'll tell you how I feel about it. But I don't really know what I saw. Right? Do I want to kill a student or do I want to hug a student? Right? Was that like a shanda or was that a kiddush Hashem? Literally not knowing what I was seeing and what I was hearing. Knowing that I didn't know. Right? That was at least that much. That saved a lot of students. I confess, me and the Kotzker Rebbe walked down those corridors of Ziegler for years. Not pretty. Velo yedato, right? Do we know, right? Do we know them? Do we know what their challenge is? Do we know how to find them? Do we know the right words? Do we know the right venue? Okay, what is my responsibility? Ve'asafto. 2 ways to read this word. 2 ways to read this word. You gotta love it. Okay, 1 and 2.
The Metziah.
The Metziah and the Ach.
Or-
Okay, who are we gathering in? Ve'asafto. I love how the Torah leaves this completely. Ve'asafto toch beitecha. Let me get to know you. Let's go out for coffee. Let me hear who you are before I tell you why you're missing out on a lifetime opportunity that you're not claiming for yourself. Sometimes we meet people, or we see a situation, they don't even know that they lost a part of themselves. Right? I was very blessed. I had a friend who, when, God bless him, when my father crossed over, I was 24, I was at Hebrew University, and it's a big campus. You can do a lot of roaming. And Dov, God bless him, he would find me roaming. And he would sit me down. And he would put some coffee in front of me, or he'd put some food in front of me. Right? And I may not even notice that I was roaming. But he saw me like that bull or cow or sheep roaming. And sat me down. V'asafto el toch beitech. Whether it's holding on to that opportunity until a person is ready to claim it, holding on to a possibility, holding on to a position, holding on to those tickets. My teacher taught me and taught his students, Reb Shlomo taught us how to sign each other in the book of life. What does it mean that a person doesn't have the strength during the minnorim to sign themselves in the book of life? And they come running up to the heavens and say, 1 second, 1 second, 1 second. What's your problem? Your name is here. 1 second, but that's not my handwriting. But whose handwriting is it? And who signed me in the book of life? Who held me in that light when I couldn't hold myself in that light? Who claimed for me my place in the world until I could come claim it? Ve'asafto el toch beitecha. Whether the object, whether the state of being, whether, I want to tell you the flip of it here is another way, and it's not so much of a lost object, but it's a practice that I have. Sometimes I will be working with a bride and groom, or a bar mitzvah family, or a bat mitzvah family, a situation in which I know there is a very troubled dynamic. And I'll say, for the rest of the evening, I'm going to hold on to that dynamic. When you are standing together under the chuppah, I'm going to hold on to the pain. I'm going to hold on to the regrets. I'm going to hold on to the abandonment. I'm going to hold on to whatever that is. I'll give it back to you at the end of the night. I'm not going to sleep with it, I promise you. Promise you. but so that you can be at that simcha in your totality. Let me hold on to asafta toch betecha. Let me hold on to it for the next 3 hours. There was a hand up, please.
If that couple, we use that example, does not even know what you see, they don't know, or they know and they know a little bit, but they don't want to find, because they don't want to find it or claim it because the implications are too big.
Well, I think the pasuk tells you, ad rosh achicha oto. They have to be willing to do that work. They have to be willing to claim it. And that's true. Right? We don't have an obligation like kantipo, like shooing away the mother bird. There are certain elements, we don't have to walk around the world looking for lost objects. That's also true. לא תראה את שורשי אחיך ואת ציון נידחים והתעלמת מהם. If you see it, you can't ignore it. But we don't, here at least, we don't have an obligation to walk into the, it's not I want to say, a proactive mitzvah, like, I'm going to look for an opportunity to fulfill the mitzvah hashavat avedat today. Because the truth of the matter is, we're never going to be able to get to where we're going, ever.
But if you see it, you're in the room, it's not you're looking for it, you're in the room with the couple,
Yeah?
and you see it, and you also are seeing that they don't want to see it. So they don't want to claim it because they don't, maybe they see the edge of it.
Sure. So
then what's your responsibility?
the Mashilach, I was going to say Hebrew name,
Abigail.
Abigail. So the Mashilach would say, Abigail, that the fact that you saw it has transformed it. Meaning to say, you have, by your vision, you have brought it to the foreground. Now, they won't claim it because they don't see it, but you have seen it, which means that it actually exists. And because of that, I would say, based on these psukim, "V'asafto el toch beitecha ad rosh achicha oto," it may be 20 years later, and they're going to walk in, and you're going to say, I've been waiting. And wow, how amazing for them to know that for 20 years you've been holding on to that for them. And that sense of something being wrong was right. There was something wrong. This is how we're going to negotiate this. Right? Seeing, naming, claiming, holding on to it until they're capable of doing the work. And it may be, right? Because someone can say, I can't do it now. I have to do it, not now. And you say, you know what? When you're ready, I'm here. Isn't that the freedom we give our children? Mm-hmm. Go out there. Make your mistakes. I'll be here waiting. When you fall, I'll be there to help you get up on your feet. I'm not going to tell you don't run. I'll tell you. This friend of mine dove like wise into my friend because he thinks that I made life choices I shouldn't have made. And I said to him, what I need you to do is I need you to promise me that if I make the wrong choice, that you'll be there at the end of the journey to help me get back on my feet. And that wasn't a partnership that he was willing to entertain. That would be our responsibility. There were hands up. Yes, please.
Karen Bot Iman Vadina. An observation and then a question. The observation is, you know how people are playing Pokemon Go? You know, and they're looking everywhere for these Pokemons. You know, and wouldn't it be interesting if you're looking for
Pokewoman. No.
What's that?
I said Pokewoman.
Poke what?
Woman.
Pokewoman, right? But if you're looking for people's, soul pieces or whatever, you're talking about. So that was one thought. But secondly, a question. What's the relationship between what you're talking about and the idea of tochacha?
And what is your thought in the question?
Just wanted to hear what you had to say. It sounds a lot like tochacha, and like you're almost laying out a prerequisite for tochacha that you've got to understand before you rebuke. But I don't know.
You're saying not necessarily.
No.
for me, I can't help but think of looking at a picture and everybody looks happy in the picture, and then you find out that somebody has cancer. Does that take away the happiness of that moment in the picture, but because you know that person is ill? So it's not it's a very strong responsibility to hold on to that and to know when the right time is to deal with it.
And I also wanna say, connected to your image, that this image isn't only about when things go wrong, right? What about when things go right? What is it about holding on to someone's joy? What is it about holding on to someone's success? What is it about holding on to someone's greatness? Until they can claim it.
That's what mentoring is about.
If I hadn't, I'm Rachel Rachel. If I didn't see, I was seeking, but I didn't know what I was seeking. I didn't know. But someone else, Irma Moskowitz, who I still adore to this day, she said, come teach. And she found that part of me that I had lost, or that I didn't even actually know I had, that I'd never taught before. So when you have a mentor who can find a piece of yourself that you're not seeing for some reason and guide you and bring you there, I mean, that's the best thing. It's a great relationship.
Amen, amen.
So,
Gabriel Chaim Ben.
For a couple of years, I've been asking people to rise for Kadisha Tome and just share their name, the name of loved one they're remembering, relationships, so we know to be able to uphold them. When I started at Nishkan this month, they have a custom not just of acknowledging mourning, but of sharing smachot. And this idea of some stranger, somebody you might not know, they're in the same fight with you, and be able to hold onto their smachot as well. And there might be some people who don't even necessarily know that there's a simcha that needs to be celebrated, that should be lauded. And so you might have to give them a nudge and say, you know, share this wonderful news, and we can all hold you in it.
Amen, amen. People that don't know that they don't feel that they have a right to be happy, or they have a right to celebrate, or they have a right to claim their greatness, or they have a right to claim their voice. Can we hold on to that as well?
And I think some of this actually goes back to the first, to Alan Morin's, is the idea of humility isn't about not claiming your greatness, but about claiming the right sizeness, and about knowing that balance of being able to let people hold you in your sorrow as well as in your joy.
So coming back to your question, Torah is one piece of what these lost objects can be. Not only relationships, for sure, right? People in our life. And sometimes objects. Sometimes objects, even. Right? וכן תעשה לחברו, וכן תעשה לשמלתו, וכן תעשה לכל אבדת אחיך אשר תאבד ממנו ומצאתה. So you shall do to there. Someone else say the word, not me.
Chamor.
Thank you. And to their simla. As I say, cross-dressing in the Torah already. וכן תעשה לכל אבדת אחיך אשר תאבד ממנו ומצאתה. And so you shall do to כל אבדת אחיך. It may be a loss to them and not to you. And that's also true. We may think of it, for example, as a situation which is a liberation, not a loss. But they are experiencing it as a loss, not as a liberation. Or they're experiencing it as a burden, not a gift. And that's also true. So these questions that we have in terms of our discerning eye, in terms of what we know, what we see, what we understand, and how do we negotiate what the other is actually claiming for themselves. And how do we live in that discrepancy?
Is there significance to use the word avad instead of ne'elam?
What are you thinking?
Well, I think there's something that somebody might have something that is hidden from them, that they're not able to see or they don't necessarily realize.
Right.
Versus something that they are aware of it being missing from them.
One more time?
I think avad,
Mm-hmm.
you have the sense that something is missing.
Right.
Versus ne'elam, you might not necessarily know.
Correct. I think, and that is true. And there I'd say that ne'elam is, on the one hand, olam, right, which is concealed and revealed, master of the world, master of concealment. Nistar would be another. Yeshav b'seter elyon, that which is concealed. And Rabbi Nachman would say there are two levels of histir. Some things we know that we are missing, and then there's the histir of the histir, v'anochi aster astir et panai, that we don't even know what we are missing, right? But step number 1B is, do we know to even ask the question? You know, when I walk into a electronics corner of one of those stores that make me sick when I just cross the, like, I know it's really bad. So I walk in, so let's say, I don't know, years ago, I wanted to buy television. So I walk in, I take a look around, a survey, and I say, okay, fine, more or less, there are about 5 TVs that cost around $300. That's kind of like my budget. And then I say to this young person who looks at me and thinks that I'm an antique, I say, okay, so this is the situation. I have $300 as my budget. There are 5 televisions here. I really live in Poland of the 18th century with visitation rights to the 21st century. So now you can tell me which television I'm supposed to buy. You can either direct me in the right direction, or you can have fun on my expense, and that will be your reward for the day or your challenge for the day. And then they'll talk me through it, and they'll tell me which one to get. And then I'll say, and what question do I not even know to ask? Because I am out of my element. Right? So it may be that what we're holding on to is a question for someone. Like coming back to some of the questions that were being raised here. Like sometimes we be holding on to a question that they're waiting. Right? It's like the Hasidic story of the dirty penny. Like someone's waiting to be asked that question. My whole life I've been waiting for someone to ask me that question. Sometimes I know what the question I've been waiting for is, and sometimes I don't even know that was the question I was waiting for. And that could also be. Yeah, one last comment.
I'm kind of the opposite of the Mimi Shaloach in that I'm not a white space person. I'm a black letter person. And I've been having a lot of trouble with achicha.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm looking for the Peshat. That's my brother. So is Gabe my brother?
He ain't heavy, he's my brother. Yes.
I've heard that before, and he is heavy. He's not my brother. But actually that's the question, is that I have 2 literal brothers. I have Gabe, a classmate. I have Karen, a teacher and mentor. I have Mimi, teacher and mentor. But are they my brothers? And what are my responsibilities to them? What's the gavul?
So I want to say that's going to be your choice. Meaning to say, in the world that I believe in, we have multiple families. Now, there's a truth that I was carrying inside of myself, and then, you know, our tradition is the kind of tradition that we hold our truths dear to our heart, and then we're grateful that we find someone else that said it before us. It's like the opposite of science. Right? In science, you want to be the one who discovers it. And in our tradition, it's okay when we think it, but then when we find it written black letters on white spaces, then I know I'm right. The Or Chaim HaKadosh, Rabbi Chaim Ben Attar, mystic, right? He's my landsman. Why? You know now. 18th century, Yerushalayim, contemporary of the Baal Shem Tov. So Rabbi Chaim Ben Attal, on the pasuk in Shmot Lamed Bet, Exodus 32 says, "Lechu b'vo b'shar v'ergu ish tachiv ish tareo ish et kruvo," and go through the gates, do what you need to do. That's my way of removing 3 words of the pasuk. And do what you need to do. Your brother, ish et re'eo, your friend, ish et tachiv, your brother, and ish et kruvo, and your kin. And the Or Chaim, and yes, true mystic, but reading the black letters, asks, what is the difference between brother and kin? And the Or Chaim says we have 2 families. We have Bechinat Molid, we have our birth family, and Achim Bechinat Shoresh Neshama, and our soul family. And then he says, Asher rechokim bechinat molid v'asher otam yahavu ahavat nefesh, that are distant in birth and are one in soul. Therefore, right, that is going to be our choice as well, right? I think the word achicha here is crucial, and it keeps on coming up again, and again. In each one of the psukim, achicha is there. And the challenge is going to be for us, and the invitation is going to be for us. How do we define that ach and achot? And again, I want to close with Reb Shlomo. One of the gifts of learning with him is, again, the way he taught me to read the white spaces, and sitting in the midst of someone who read black letters and white spaces. And the word ach and achot, leman achai v're'ai, he taught us that ach also is connected to the word in Hebrew of ichui, healing. Achai v're'ai, ichui, healing. Who are those people that are ach and achot? Who are those that we have the gift to assist in their healing? There's one healer, but we have the gift of assisting in their healing. Who are those that are healing for us? And that is going to shift how we read these psukim as well, and how we define how limited our definition of the word ach is, how expansive our definition of the word achot is. Same as healing. How minimal do we understand that word to be? And how expansive do we understand that word to be? One and only. As we take steps towards Shabbat Nacham, and say Nachamu Nachamu Ami, we're asking you for comfort. And I know that you are also asking us for comfort, for words of comfort. May we find those parts of each other that need to be claimed and brought home. May we know what we lost. May we know where we lost it. May we remember where we experienced it for the last time. May we know that we're never lost, and in your world, at best, misplaced. Our love for you, our commitment, our love for each other, our commitment to each other, our commitment to ourselves, our commitment to the planet, to the galaxy, to your words, to your black letters, to your white spaces. Bless us to walk together.